Beers and Banter Sparky series. We're back. As always, we're really appreciative of the support from the guys at Gripstar Socks. Gripstar Anti-Slip Socks feature panels that create traction that improves speed, acceleration and stability. Gripstar Socks are designed to deliver maximum comfort and flexibility, featuring a breathable mesh design that removes sweat and reduces odours. Perfect for high movement sports, working on your feet or lounging safely at home. Seriously grippy. BNB Sparky series. We're back today with the Innovative Tradies Club, sitting down with Ash and J Dub. Welcome to Beers and Banter.
Hey, Matty, thanks for having us.
Cheers, Matty.
I'm a bit rusty, as you can tell. Apologies for that. We'll get all that in post-production.
It's probably all the excitement of your footy team going so well this year. You weren't expecting that, were you?
No, we didn't expect that. Well, to be honest, we had high hopes at the start of the season, and really a slow start to the season cost them at the back end because they only just missed the finals. And I think there was a few teams that were glad that they did. But anyway, we're coming off the back of probably one of the biggest weekends in Australian sport due to COVID. A lot of the calendars got pushed back. So you had sports on the weekend that wouldn't normally clash with each other. You had 2 qualifying finals from the NRL, 2 qualifying finals for the AFL. You had Bathurst, you had the Bledisloe, there was UFC, you had the Everest, Caulfield Cup. It was my wedding anniversary and the missus was away. It was a really good weekend.
Well, I'm not sure about the anniversary, but from a sporting point of view, I mean, the way you've summarised that, it couldn't have really been much bigger. It's a huge round of particular footy, some important games.
Yep. And obviously played out of place. What did you have? I think the AFL would have been hoping that the Lions had got up on the weekend, maybe. I don't know. They'll probably still pack the Gabba as full as they can get, but they were really hoping to sink the boot into the NRL this year, I think, with the, getting the Lions up and the Queensland NRL teams going poorly. But what about your team, Ash? Your team, well, that would have been the rival team on the weekend, so your team no good at all this year.
Oh, good, mate. Only a couple of wins for the whole year, and we're not used to the wooden spoon feeling, but it happens to every team. It's about how we fight back next year now, I think. But no, it was very dismal year indeed.
Just write it off. There'll always be an asterisk next to 2020. It's not the one you want to win.
Yeah, I'm with you. It has to be this year.
So, sporting pursuits. What JW play a fair bit of golf these days?
Yeah, look, I have, Matt, as I get older, I've had to sort of go to sports that are sort of more aligned to my physical fitness, and golf is one of those ones that you can sort of play at any type of fitness level. But in saying that, I used to get in the buggy and wander around and be a bit lazy, so I invested in an electric car. Well, don't say there's a second-hand one, so the thing's probably as old as I am, but it still runs like a treasure. So I'm doing a lot more Ks now. I'm probably getting, 20,000 Ks. The way
you say it's an electric pull card, is it?
Well, it's electric, yeah. I carry a lot of heavy clubs and I need a lot of balls with the game that I play, and I tend to zigzag down fairways. So, it makes it a longer walk, so the battery tends to get me through to the other end. And I played a course called Mangrove Mountain, which is just up the Central Coast, a little 9-hole course it is now. So you sort of play the same greens twice, but you have different tees. But it is Mangrove Mountain, and hence from the bottom of the valley back up to the top is probably an incline of 150 metres. It's literally a long way from bottom to top.
Bit of walking in that.
There's a lot of walking, but it's a beautiful walk up there in the fresh air.
You used to be heavily involved with the round ball football. The soccer,
yeah. Hornsby RSL was my club, so I spent over 30 years actually playing footy, or maybe a little bit more actually, if you include the juniors, playing with them, and had the honour of being the president of that club for 13 years. So a big part of my life was around that. As I got a bit older, I moved into refereeing as well as playing. Obviously, the body wasn't as able as the mind was. So got into refereeing, and that was a lot easier on the body because you're sort of running straight lines. So I got a little bit fit at that time, and and did a lot of refereeing. But in the end, the amount of feedback I was receiving probably got me to the decision that maybe refereeing, I can hang those boots up now as well.
That was from the sideline during the games, or was that post game?
Oh yeah, a little bit of that. But I mean, you blow the whistle and you've got 11 friends in the blue and 11 enemies in the red, and then 3 minutes down the track you blow your whistle and it swaps over again. So, and particularly the older guys. I mean, the 35 and 45 comps. These guys are some of the best referees in the game based on the feedback they provided me, and they know a lot more about the laws of football than I do, and sometimes that feedback, I wasn't scared to give them my feedback back as well. So sometimes that didn't go down so well with some of them.
And your other love is the Bulldogs. They didn't have the greatest season, but they were in a lot more games than they were supposed to be this year.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about luck, and people say you're an idiot, but I mean, the Bulldogs weren't out of too many games. I think the Roosters towed them up pretty heavily one game, but apart from that, they were pretty much in the game for a lot of it. A lot of young guys in there, a lot of turbulence around the boardroom. Kieran Foran, I mean, as good as a footballer he was taking up a big chunk of our salary cap and just didn't, because of fitness or injury, just didn't get enough time on the field. But
is Blake Green heading there next year, or is he staying at the Knights now?
We don't know. It has been earmarked to come across, but there's talk that he might be staying in some sort of coaching capacity with Newcastle. So depending on what happens there, it might free up the Roosters halfback. They've told him that they don't need him after 2021. Flanagan. So it might be an opportunity. I mean, he's still a young fellow and can kick unbelievably well, and obviously with a few years' experience. And what Barrett's done, particularly with Panthers attack, I mean, they head into the grand final this weekend. He comes across as our head coach. So I think, based on what I've seen in improvement, particularly in attack from the Panthers, if he brings some of that, even a quarter of that to the Bulldogs in the 21 season, I think I'm not sure we'll make the top 8 next year, but I think we'll be a little bit more competitive, and certainly a bit like your team, we'll be just knocking on the door for that top 8 towards the end of next season.
It's so hard. You've got the teams that are established winners, and then you've got the teams that are trying to climb the ladder. So, and you think, well, we've made big gains. We're gonna start to climb the ladder, but everyone seems to make the same improvements over the course of the off season, and it's such a close competition in some respects, and then so far apart in others. You know, this year there was probably 5 or 6 teams that were clearly. You know, far and away better, and then there was the rest were probably not going to win it. So it's hard to try and climb into that top 6.
No, look, it is, but the talent pool is just not as deep anymore. Without having the reserve grade and the sort of the under 23s competition now, they're just not the place for a lot of players to actually get that toughness, if you like, to prepare them for that final step into the NRL. So I think it's going to be an ongoing problem in many ways to find the talent to sustain the teams, and particularly the pace of the game now, the amount of injuries, sort of muscle tissue injuries that they're getting. COVID might have contributed this year, but certainly some of those law changes or rule changes in the NRL have sped it up, and some of those players that were sort of stifled and couldn't get involved. I mean, look at your team. I mean, I think it really favoured the Titans this year. Some of those players that are real natural instinct players really stood up and won a lot of games for the Titans this year that might not have won under the old rules. You
saw a couple of big bodies just leave the game too. You know, traditionally guys that had come on and play 15 minutes, there was probably no place for them in the new game. You've got to be a lot more agile. There's still going to be big bodies, but it did really seem to favour the young, speedy guys playing eyes up footy. When those
there's real fatigue now, isn't there?
Yeah,
they are getting tired. As a result, that opens up the play for the smaller, faster guys.
And what about you, Ash? Over the years, we've seen you do some phenomenal feats with your body. Where are your sporting passions? Where do you spend your time when it comes to sporting pursuits?
Nowadays, mate, it's more following the boys. My boys and their pursuits in footy. I've got 3 sons, and they keep me fairly busy during the week and on the weekends, following their AFL footy. So I enjoy that now, mate. I played a lot of footy growing up, and like all of us, and feeling the effects of it now. But more fun watching everyone else do it than having to do it nowadays. So I can have a beer on the sideline as well watching. So it's actually quite good fun.
That's a massive oversight on my part. We haven't thrown the beers up. I'm drinking a First Point Pale Ale from Land and Sea Brewery at Noosa. I was on holidays there a week or so ago, and I didn't mind the taste of those, so I thought I'd bring one of those along today.
Are they one of your sponsors? It was a very impressive introduction of that beer.
No, it's
Well, they should be. With the quality of this show, they should be a sponsor.
Open as
Get them on
sponsors.
board.
Can do reviews. Let's have a look. An all-Australian pale ale brewed with a base of Aussie pale malt, then hopped in the whirlpool with 3 Aussie all-stars, Ella, Vic Secret, and Galaxy. Then dry hopped with the trio again in the fermenter. I don't know. It may have just been the location, but it tastes pretty good.
No, good stuff.
Felt
I'm not sure if you can see this one. Where I've got to hold it over here. I think.
Yeah, about there somewhere.
Yeah, you see that the Miller's Chill. I'm not sure if you tried this. It's got a little twist of lime in there. And it's only one standard drink to the bottle.
I don't think we've had those on the
very
pod.
much a summer beer. Well, Miller's Chill. I'd recommend all your viewers out there to get out there and have a crack.
Okay. Wait till they're on.
I'll
wait till they're at the $10. You know the $10 deal at the counter. You ever get that down your way?
Yeah, you'd be waiting a long time. This is a premium beer for premium guys. Ash and I get into it. It's not bad.
Never heard so much rubbish in all my life.
Show them your West End. Where is it?
No, well, you know what? How bad news did you get last week?
Very
West
bad
End
news.
shutting down in Adelaide.
Terrible news.
Travesty.
So were they still independently owned, or where were they at?
No.
Lion Nathan.
So they only had, I say only, they're moving it, I think over New South Wales into one of their breweries there.
Yeah,
There's about 100 odd people will lose their jobs here, made in the factory. But we also had the big chimney.
It's
the brewery, which has the winning team of the SANFL from yesterday will go up there on tomorrow, and the runner-up will get their colours flying as well. So the big debate around Adelaide at the moment is where will the chimney end up? Where will the colours go for next year? So
it's really weird that to go away from local beer making in this sort of craze that is craft breweries and local beers, and people really getting behind local products. I've seen it massively since I started doing the pod. Is that people are moving away from the larger companies and the larger breweries that one beer brewed for the whole country, and they're going into the boutique breweries. You would have thought that was a chance for Lion Nathan to really keep a South Australian identity with their customers. It seems odd to me that they would move that and leave it, but smarter people than me run these things. As you guys would probably know, accounts and HR run most companies these days, but
it's a hell of a mate, but you probably hit the nail on the head, with all the brewers around and the breweries, and it's an experience now to go to there and taste their beers, a bit like the old winery tours of years gone by. We're now running brewery tours. The brewers and try their beers. So, and a lot more of the bigger outlets are happy to hold the one-offs and whatnot and let everyone try them. So I suppose that's what doesn't help. But they're now during the week, so they're going to turn the land into apartment block by the looks of it. So we'll see what happens. We'll create some jobs, but we'll lose some jobs.
It's a shame.
Yeah, it's a shame.
All right. I want you to take our listeners and viewers back to the start of your, this show is called, this is our Sparky series version. So it's a bit of a spin-off. I want you to take us back to the start of your electrical careers. Where did it start and how did it progress?
Go on, JW.
I'll start. Mine started a bit earlier than Ash's.
I actually did my festoon lighting in the war, was it?
Festoon, lots of festoon. I was gas lanterns actually.
Maybe they didn't have electricity when Johnny started.
I did my apprenticeship with the State Rail Authority, or the railways in New South Wales, and there was a lot of, back then the big utilities employed a lot of tradies. I think I was one of about a bit over 1,000 different trades that the railways put on, and 180 of them were electrical fitter mechanics, of which I was one. So I used to get on the in the grey overalls. So they had all the different coloured overalls for the different trades, painters in white, welders in the dark green, khaki for the carpenters, and blah, blah, blah. So in the railways, every 6 months we went to a different part of the network. So you sort of went from very extra low voltage right through to high voltage, AC and DC. So there's a real cross pollination of different parts of the industry. So you learn a lot about lots of things without really becoming a master of any. I know Ash and I, we shared our stories about when we started, and the first 8 weeks or 2 months of my apprenticeship was filing steel. So literally in the toolkit that we got on day one was just taking chunks of metal and then just filing it into different shapes and sizes, all true and square to face and all that sort of stuff. So learn a lot about the craft, if you like, of being a tradie, and you probably don't get that as much more. And even the last few months, we've been talking to different tradies and particularly apprentices, how they probably used in many cases as an alternate or cheaper labour, so that they may not always get the true artisan part of the trade. But the railways, I certainly did enjoy that and met some really amazing people. So that's where I started, and I left there pretty much at the end of the apprenticeship and went and worked for a company called Quirk Electrical. And that was, I suppose, my first step out into that commercial space. And we were working on a village, a retirement village out at Mossman it was. And it was all double brick, so it was all chased. And again, we share the story. Literally, I don't know how many tens, if not hundreds of kilometres of wall chasing I did, but I suppose I really didn't touch my pliers and my traditional Sparky tools for quite a few months. It was all just preparing for the fit out.
How does it make you feel? How does it make you feel with all the silica stuff coming out when you think about all the times you spent on the grinder? I know we did a lot of work in a double brick retirement village. You'd come home, dust, your hair would be solid from the dust. It'll be all up your nose, and that was with protective equipment. I worked with my dad. He was always looking after us, but you'd still get a certain amount of dust, ingress. And now with everything that's coming out, what do you think that's? How does that make you feel? I guess.
Look, I'll be fair, honest. I don't want to think about it because there's so much stuff that you went through. I mean, and asbestos in particular, that asbestos lagging around air conditioning and pipes. I mean, back then you probably just didn't know what we know now. So I try not to think about it because you just don't know what's going to happen there. But certainly today, I mean, some of the things that we did in the past would be unacceptable today. There's no question about that. But again, I suppose we're just naive, just to really understand the risks associated to it, and particularly in the construction industry, so many like the James Hardy issue and some of those things. There's lots of products that are out there that people were just naive to. They didn't understand. And to your point, the silica, even some of the bench tops they still talk about now, a lot of the stonemasons and the tiles, and that could still be exposed to problems of the future that are only being found out now.
Definitely. What about yourself?
So I got into construction. Construction, and it was so I learned a lot. So I mean, spent many years on the tools, a lot of high-rise stuff too. So stuff out of the ground, 15, 20, 25-story buildings, Sussex Street, Kent Street, Market Street. So did all the deck work, that type of stuff, and then converted that into either office space or hotels or hospitals or whatever it might have been. So it was a pretty cool time. And particularly New South Wales, back when I was there at that time, it was really booming, massive growth in the construction industry. We went from the BLF had just moved into the BWIU, and now I think it's the CMFEU. So sort of many of them working in industrial, unionised sites too, and the complexity comes with managing that environment.
Yep. And what about yourself, Ash? Where did it all start?
So mine was with the Australian Army, mate, the Defence Force. So I joined as a 17-year-old many moons ago, and started my electrical mechanics apprenticeship there. So we did. We're a little bit different than civilian apprentices with you guys. We spent the first 2 full years of our apprenticeships doing theory. So we knocked off all of our theory, and someone said many years ago it worked out about 1,800 hours extra theory time than what a civilian apprentice would normally do. So we lived on base and just out the back of Albury, Wodonga, on the Army Apprentice site, right near the Hugh Weir. Beautiful spot to be. We didn't think it at the time, but when you look back, we were pretty fortunate. And you got most of the sergeants walking around about 6'6" and ripping India. So it wasn't all that much fun early on, but it got more fun. So we spent 2 years there, mate, and then headed to Sydney for 2 years and did 2 years full time with a civilian contractor.
Yep.
So we were living on base in Liverpool, but we were farmed out to civilian contractors to get our practical up, because before then all we'd done is board work, board wiring in the classroom. So we did that, and that was good fun. I spent some time with a guy called Kev Jennels, who I don't know if Johnny remembers, but played for Manly, and his son followed him at Manly as well. So he was interesting. He actually taught me the game of rugby league, Matty, because coming from Adelaide, all we knew was AFL, and back then it was VFL, and SAFL, and
Bring back the Rams.
Oh, well, we followed the Rams, all that briefly. It was good. It was, I spent every day in the front of his combi van, an old Plumber Gaspita combi van or something, or whatever he had, Mail, Motor Australia Post, whatever it was. And we travel all over Sydney in this thing, and he'd tell me about it just brainwashed me into NRL. So it was good. It was a really good experience. And then I spent the next 3 years traveling, spent a year in Brisbane and a couple of years in Melbourne with the Defence Force, traveling around doing different installations and bits and pieces. So and it was time. I spent 7. I'd signed for 9, spent 7 because they were, at that stage, the government thought a smaller Defence Force would be a better option. So few of us took the chance to jump ship early and got out, mate, moved back to Adelaide, worked for a guy for about 18 months, and then started up my own business, which we did here for the next 12 years after that. So I was I had it fairly varied, but it was very different apprenticeship. We didn't do, other than the 2 years in Sydney, I wouldn't say we spent a lot of time touching the pliers. Johnny knows the story about painting rocks white when they needed you to do something. You just paint some rocks white that led up a driveway path. So we did a fair bit of that sort of stuff, but lots and lots of fitness, as you can imagine, in getting ready. So unfortunately, or fortunately, or unfortunately, whichever way you look at it now, I wasn't lucky enough to jump on an overseas posting. So a lot of my seniors did.
Yep.
And that's Cambodia, Solomon Islands, and the likes. So they went over, but we were very lucky as we were part of the engineers. So while we were learning our trade, we spent time doing all sorts of things, learning how to build bridges. We built many a bridge over the rivers. Lots on mine detection, as we've seen in the past with our army over doing that, and lots of stuff in blowing things up, mate, which was probably the most fun. So working out how explosives work and what happens. So very varied.
The normal electricians, when they're blowing stuff up as an apprentice, it's not a good thing.
No, it's normally dropping a spanner in a switchboard, mate, or something like that. So really varied. And I look back now and think, lucky. I was fortunate enough to do it. As I said, probably didn't think that way in the early days.
At the time.
But it was good. Enjoyed it.
You both managed to transition into sales roles. What was the theory behind that, or what was the catalyst for that?
Mine was just opportunistic. The company I was working for, Quirk Electrical, that I mentioned earlier, they had grown quite significantly over a fairly short period of time, sort of 40 through to maybe 150 at its peak, and doing a lot of high-rise stuff in the city. And long story short, it was when Bondi and Skase were around. I'm not sure if people listening or watching remember those two characters. Bondi got the America's Cup. He sort of won that. And then
I was born a couple of years after we won the cup. That was good.
Well, you're too young, but anyway. And Skase, he was building all these resorts, Port Douglas and that sort of stuff. Anyway, they took a lot of money out of the banking system, and Westpac was one of them, and the company I worked for. Anyway, so the receivers come in to have a look, and because we had so much retention, 10% of sort of contract values held for 12 months in that warranty period, and basically couldn't access the capital, so the liquidators essentially closed the business. So I was looking for other opportunities. I rang a company at West Ryde, and they said, come in for an interview. Went for the interview, and about 2 hour interview, and I got the job. So all of a sudden, instead of a sparking, I was a sales guy. And what I didn't really understand until a few hours afterwards, that the reason I got the job was because I didn't pay anything. It was commission only. So you only got paid for what you earn, and it's no different to, I suppose, our audience, tradies. I mean, anyone in small business is exactly the same. They do not get paid till they sell something, and so I suppose that was my very first business, if you like, because I had to go out and sell stuff, and if I sold stuff, I got paid. So that was door-to-door type stuff: home improvements, windows, cladding, guttering, carports, screen enclosures, extensions, kitchens, bathrooms, anything pretty much to do with a home around renovations.
You ever seen a show called White Gold out of the UK?
No, I haven't seen that one, but there was.
Check it out. Yeah, we won't go down that rabbit hole. White Gold, it's called.
White Gold. It sounds like it might be very similar, but that's how I learned to sell. So I did that for a couple of years and learned a lot. It was amazing because you had to leave literally with a signed contract and a 10% deposit, and you could not go back there twice. Once you walked through that front door, you had to leave with a buying decision. So, needless to say, you learned a lot about selling quite quickly. And
Pressure's on.
Made, I would say, really very good money, but inconsistent, exactly the same as small business. It's not as if you're an employee somewhere, you get paid every week, fortnight, a month. In small business, sometimes there's more sometimes and a lot less others. And that's exactly the experience I had there. But that's how I got into selling. And it was I suppose I've never looked back really, because it hardened me up or gave me an insight into selling that I wouldn't have got in other places, I don't believe.
And that's something that, I've been there for a short period of time myself as a small business owner. It's something you don't really understand as a tradie, is that you're actually in sales. You think you're a tradesman, but you're actually a salesman that's got to deliver a product.
Yeah.
What about yourself, Ash? Well, because we'll go into that. I think you guys have got some great insights into that. What about you? What was your transition from business owner to sales?
So at the time, about 3 years before I went into sales, I joined up with a mate of mine who was an air conditioning or refrigeration mechanic. He had a business and we played footy together and whatnot. We joined up and into our business and started a partnership, and I've been in a partnership before. And that went really well and it was going really well. And I went to this day, we're still mates, didn't end badly. He just decided one day that he was going to move to Gympie up in Queensland. So it was always going to make it a bit hard to keep the partnership going if he was in Queensland. So, and as I said, I was amicable, and he just decided he needed a sea change, and he's still up there.
Gympie's not by the sea, just quietly. I've spent many.
Change maybe, but yeah, he's loving it up. And he's working with the Gympie Cats. I think he's president of the club or something, and mucking around. But I had the choice then to, I suppose, essentially break away and go back to doing electrical only again for myself and on my own and doing all that, or I got to know the Clipsal boys over the reps over the years, and it was just a chance that one of them would come to see me. I don't know, about a week after I made his decision. He said, "Oh, we're looking for people in SA sales." So I thought, "Oh well, what do you do? I'd been sparky in the business for 12. I thought, well, new challenge, so I took it all those years ago, mate. And that was just a chance. I said it was just a chance meeting that they'd come along at the time, and we were chatting away. And I think a week later, I'd gone in for an interview that only lasted half an hour, John, not 2 hours. The interview process, and got walked away with the job. So that led me into 12 years of sales with the Clipsal business, mate. So as you know, that's where it all began.
So both got a solid background. You know what it's like on the front line, on the tools. You've both got good sales history. Where did the idea and what is Innovative Tradies Club? Where did that come from, and what is it all about?
Can I talk about the idea, John, then you talk about the trade, what we do now? Will that work?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
John and I spoke about this, Matty. I'm going to say I've been out of Clipsal just over 3 years now. So I'm going to say probably about 8 years ago. John and I were traveling around and doing some stuff around the country. And I said to him, like, there's a lot of businesses that need support. There's a lot that are good at their trade, but don't tend to know much. We started talking about over those years, setting people up. So, You give them a computer and a phone and the bookwork and the training, and away they go. And so we sat on the idea for ages and just kept sort of every now and then we'd catch up and it'd become a topic over a beer. So that's where it sort of, if you go back sort of 8 or 9 years ago, that's where we started about it, talking about an idea of how do we help, and that was Sparky's only back then. How do we help the tradies become, because when you look at the percentage of businesses that go broke within the first 12 months in Australia, small business, it's scary, the percentages. The amount of people that think, yep, we can do this, we'll be better than our boss, or we'll earn more money, or we love the freedom, which all those three things are nearly incorrect. It's amazing how many don't make it because they haven't set themselves up well in the beginning and things like that. So that's essentially all those years ago, over a beer, that the idea started, and then to what we've got today, which I'll let John talk about.
I don't know if it crosses to the other trades, but I certainly know in 2010 I made the big bold move because I was at Clipsal at the time, and there was this exciting thing called the NBN coming, and I could see this smart home revolution coming, and I decided to leave the safety of working for Clipsal, and I was going to go out my own. I spent 6 months doing 2 nights a week at the local TAFE because I had to refresh my capstone test at the time, so to prove my competencies there. And they also make you do a business course. Now, me in this business course thinking that it's going to be actually how to run a business. How do I quote? How do I win jobs? How do I run the books? All those sorts of things. How to, marketing. And there's none of that in the business course that you have to do to be a contractor. It's all about legislation and I'm sure very important stuff, but not actually setting you up to, to get past that first 12 months to make sure you don't fail. So if the other trades are like that, then it's very easy to see why that happens. I basically came out, it was 2010, so great time, GFC. And I found myself working for other tradies. 12 months later, I'm off to the mines to top up, supplement my income, doing stints in the mines and all those sorts of things, backwards and forwards. And it's tough. It's no surprise that happens in the first 12 months because unless you've saved a heap of money, which most people don't. They think, oh, well, I'm just going to start working. And what you don't realize is you spend most of your money either paying your wholesalers or buying new tools or buying new gear to make you better at doing your job. So it's, no surprise that first 12 months is the hardest for businesses.
Yeah, definitely.
No, and even we've got a podcast, Trade Avant-Garde, and interviewing some tradies, and it's interesting. And you sort of say that first 12 months, many of them are saying, that first 5 years is probably some of the hardest times. So if you put it in the context there, it is a bit of a hard grind. So I suppose sort of following on what Ash said, we've shared these conversations. We've had a real strong passion for tradies and our background. Like Ash, I had 25 years with Clipsal and Schneider Electric after I finished that direct selling job. Moved into Clipsal in 1994, and through different circumstances had the opportunity to move out of Schneider after a wonderful 25-year career there and start doing some of my own stuff. And then Ash and I teamed up to start Innovative Tradies Club. And the motivation of that over many years working with tradies, we know they're really talented. They're doing a fantastic job in their trade, and they might be working for a boss, and all of a sudden they work out that they can probably go out and do it better themselves and make a lot of money. So to your point around going back and doing your capstone and stuff, that really doesn't answer the question about the business part of business. And Innovative Tradies Club is really about that, recognising in the construction space that sparkies, plumbers, chippies, tilers, landscapers, gyprockers, painters, all those tradies working in the construction space, the business model fundamentally is very similar, although the complexity of electrical, plumbing and building are licensed typically. So there's a bit more compliance there to the trade in regards to the qualifications and certifications and stuff. But generally speaking, that community also all work together. All those tradies know each other as tradies. And part of, I suppose, developing that, if we looked at our vision and Ash and I are by no means marketing gurus by any stretch of the imagination. But I mean, our vision, we said that tradies to be engaged and motivated to be the best version of themselves. And fundamentally, that's exactly what we believe. Wherever they are now, if we can help them to be a little bit better as a result of the influence that we have or the network or the community that Innovative Tradies Club can provide them, we think that would be outstanding. So, I mean, it's pretty simple. And the mission, if you like, to inspire tradies in the way they think, feel and act by connecting that community of talented tradies together to provide real value. So really creating the network for them to be able to leverage those relationships, those skills. And I mean, you've been in selling, Maddie, and I know that tradies don't like the word salesperson. They don't see themselves as a salesperson, but of course, that's exactly what they are. So we probably have to come up with a different language that sort of aligns to getting that result of getting a decision or getting an order and getting paid for it. If it's not selling, maybe some other language. But transforming tradiology is the thing that Ash and I have brought to it, trying to get tradies to think a bit differently about the business part of business, but more importantly, simplifying that. So working with other industry experts. Excuse me. One thing we aren't is there's some amazing industry bodies that look after the sort of specific needs of those trades. I mean, in electrical, we know that there's NECA and Master Electricians do a very good job representing their members, HIA and MBA in that construction space that do a great job representing the needs of those. Master Plumbers and all the variants of that around the different regions, Master Plumbers, New South Wales, Queensland and so on. So we're not trying to fill that space. What we are trying to do is just help raise awareness, have tradies tell stories from tradies about some of the things that might help people moving into business or maybe thinking about moving out of business, a different way of thinking about it, and more importantly, getting the rewards for their expertise, their knowledge and their skills, and not underselling. We see a lot of that because they don't understand the business part of business, they actually undervalue their values to their customer and undercharge in some cases, or don't understand the right price point for what they offer.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those things that I think customers, and particularly if I go back to the electrical space, and maybe when I left the business in 2010, I was probably a little bit early for the smart home revolution, but we're really starting to see it kick in now. But the problem is that there's a lot of people out there that don't really know what they need and who's going to deliver it for them, but they know they're interested and they know that they want to connect their phone to devices in their house. So tradies have got two options. They can let some of the major retailers run that story, or they could step in and step up and be that trusted advisor to their customers and say, well, look, yep, there's those products over there, but these are the ones that are actually going to work long term and deliver the actual outcome for yourself and what you're after, as an end user. So
no, exactly.
If I could add to it, Matty, too, what you were saying about the tradie, I suppose the other focus group is tradies partners. It's in a small business, you find a high percentage of their wife, their partner, at home doing the books, trying to put together, keep it running on that side, all the bookwork and put the quotes together, or paying the bills and whatnot. So we'll have a big focus, and that's how when I first started, happened for us. And we've always want to make sure that they need as much help running the business as the trading needs in making sure he's doing good business. So he or she in that regard. So we're going to have a big focus on also the partner at home and how do we help them. So we'll run webinars at different times of the day that sort of suit them, and because generally they're trying to also bring up a family at the same time as help their partner run the business. So so there'll be a big play in that through Innovative Tradies Club as well.
So you're both very social sort of fellas. I'm assuming there'd be a social aspect to this club. No.
Look, Matty, things have changed quickly, but of course, I mean, socially, networking is really the language you're talking about here.
Yes,
because
yes.
people are social beasts. I mean, if COVID's taught us anything, and I mean, poor old Melbourne, but even many people, and mental health, for example. I mean, isolation is a terrible thing. And the other thing we talk about, particularly tradies sort of in business for themselves, but not by themselves. It can be quite lonely for a lot of tradies out there as well. So I know that in the past, electrical has been reasonably well served there. There's been a lot of activity that's been done extremely well. But if you think about that whole construction space, we see there's an opportunity to bring that community together more often, whether it be virtually or once COVID sort of clears up, we'll get out on the road shows and stuff and just get out and just talking about stuff, talking about those issues, and particularly things like mental health as an example. It's one of those things that thankfully is getting more awareness now, and there's more open conversations about it. But I think there's still a lot that's been done in that space. Ash talked about the partners in the business, and I know in construction, I think it's still as low as about 3% of participation in construction trade is female. So there's still a big chance to maybe grow the amount of participation in a real meaningful way of the amount of ladies or women that are attracted to the trade, because there are so much benefits of being in the trade. I mean, I've got 2 daughters and 1 son. So as a ratio, I've got a lot of self-interest in seeing that that market being opened up to ladies that want to get involved. So that's a big opportunity for us. We know there's lots of amazing suppliers, and I mean, our title is Innovative Tradies by choice, because it's about innovation. It's about doing things a little bit better, leveraging the technologies. And you talked about sort of the smart home and the apps and devices and stuff. Well, that didn't come up so well, but this thing's pretty much in people's hands all but 24/7. And even when they're sleeping, they sometimes wake up and reference it. So using that technology for tradies to make better decisions on using their time and getting the best return for their time, and some of the technologies that sit behind that device to really drive productivity, more importantly, and get a better return for their efforts.
That's great. I look forward to following along and watching the club grow. To finish off, though, I've got 3 big questions that I ask all my guests. We'll go give it rapid fire, but JW, give us your answer, and then Ash, and then we'll go to the next question. You ready?
Yep.
Favorite place in the world for a beer?
Dingo Beach Pub.
Dingo Beach.
Top of the Eiffel Tower.
Sorry, I missed you there, Ash.
Top of the Eiffel Tower.
Oh, geez,
For a beer?
For a beer?
Yep.
You didn't ask for
Yeah,
you
but
to
how-
brag. Are you allowed to brag? Is that part of the game?
Yeah. Do they sell beers up there?
What beer was it? Name the beer you drank up there.
I can't. I couldn't actually.
Probably a Stella.
Couldn't remember.
Stella.
Too long ago. Who knows?
But it's an impressive story. Well done.
Favorite athlete of all time?
Favorite athlete? Look, after watching The Last Dance, to be honest, I was not into basketball in such a way as many others. But when I saw The Last Dance of Michael Jordan, that amazed me. So I think
We've
what
seen
he did to transform was just incredible.
We've seen last week. We've seen LeBron James go to 4 championships, 4 MVPs. In my opinion, he's still not Michael Jordan, and maybe that's just nostalgia talking. But
it could be for a generation, but amazing.
I don't think LeBron transcends basketball like Michael Jordan did. Michael Jordan
changed the rules.
He wouldn't have been able to walk anywhere in the world without, and that's more branding than actual sporting ability. But MJ's still the GOAT in my eyes. Ash,
yeah, I'm with you.
Usain Bolt.
Usain Bolt, freak.
Show us the flash.
Weak. Imagine being able to run
Show
that
us the
fast.
flash. That's
Hey,
it.
You got it.
He turned up to some it was like the NFL Combine the other week, and just easily coasted to their 40-second record or something like that in a pair of runners, not even in spikes or anything like that.
Although in saying that, he
guys
didn't get a contract with the Mariners, so he could run fast, but he couldn't.
What was that?
Mariners.
With your soccer connections, was that hype or real? Was that just marketing?
Look, I think it was genuine passion. I think he wants to be a professional footballer. I think it was genuine, most certainly.
I thought he was going to be. I thought he was more likely to show up in T20 cricket.
I mean, the Bulldogs would have signed him with that speed down the sideline. He would have been a great winger. For sure.
You can't coach speed.
You can't.
No chance.
Righto, last one. Any 4 people from history over for a beer and a barbecue? Who's coming and what are you cooking?
Oh, well, I suppose from a footy point of view, Craig Johnson. I mean, what he did at Liverpool and sort of really put international footy on the map. It'd be great to have him at the barbecue. We just lost Dean Jones a little while ago, but as a younger guy, I thought he was a real game changer in that. So in absence of Dino, I think.
You can have alive or dead. You can have Dino there. I'll get him back for you.
I'd have Dino there from a cricket point of view. Rugby league. Actually, we saw Sterlo. We were out on Sunday, and he was out having a punt out at Rouse Hill. But he was a footballer, probably Mal Meninga, actually. I'd like to pick Mal's brain, Australian coach. And the fourth one. I'm not sure, Matty. It's not coming to me. Ashley. When the borders are open, Ashley Ralph.
Well, I think South. You can go from South Oz to Sydney now, can't you, or not?
Yeah, they keep threatening to close them again on us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be the problem. Is people are going to start planning travel for Christmas, and they're going to end up stuck.
Yeah,
hotel
yeah.
bill.
Well, your Premier's not helping us. Well, actually, your Premier's helping New South Wales, to be honest, because the North Coast is absolutely booming. A whole tourism market that probably would have been enjoyed by Queensland's now being localised by New South Welsh residents. So I think, thank you.
Well, it's funny. It's funny that though, isn't it? And maybe there's a massive percentage of Australians that can be out of the country at any one time. But I would say there's some places like Byron Bay and Noosa and different destinations that are really receiving the benefit of people being stuck in their states at the moment. So maybe
they're booming, absolutely booming.
Noosa was at capacity. You could not rent a room there 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Ash, 4 people over for a barbecue.
Well, I think from a footy point of view, Malcolm Blight. I'd like to. I spent. It was interesting as a Sparky when he first moved to Adelaide to coach the Crows. He bought a place and he rang the company I was working for, and I was sent over to do some work. Didn't know it was him that I was going to meet till he opened the front door. And I spent about a week there doing some work, and it was just only got a couple of conversations out of him. Very quiet bloke, but I thought, it'd be great to spend a bit of time loosening him up with a couple of beers, and I think there'd be some very, very interesting stories about what went on through the 2 grand finals he won for the Crows and things, and how they were betting on the races at half time and things like that at the grand final. They were,
Wow.
So I think there's some interesting things there. I think Joel Garner, Big Bird, only because I remember watching him at Adelaide Oval many, many years ago for all the redevelopments, and we were allowed to. I think we took the day off school to go and see the last day of the test, and they ran out there with like I don't know what I was, 10, 11-year-old, I suppose. We all ran up to Big Bird for some reason, and you just looked up and he was just enormous. And I don't know, I think he'd be quite a character. Steve Waugh, I think, would be excellent on having him along to, just on where cricket's at the moment, and more from a today point of view and what he thinks about all the dramas that we've been through not long ago. And the last one, which I think would be super interesting, would be my great grandfather who went through World War One.
Yeah, great.
Because I reckon some of the stuff that would have come back, everyone's seen the movies, everyone's seen what they went through the trenches and coming out and over the top, and he passed away over there doing that. But yeah, I think, imagine that, if you were able to get him back and have a chat about what they went through back then, just horrific with that sort of World War One experience. So, and what would I serve them? Have to be lamb chops, mate, wouldn't it?
Lamb chops.
Lamb chops on the barbie.
Sounds good. J-Dub, what are you cooking? You didn't tell us what you're cooking.
No, caught me there. Well, it would be food, but pizza. We've got this beautiful wood-fired pizza oven out the back, and my beautiful wife Penny's mastered this base, really crispy, and it's fantastic. So they'd be pizzas, whatever topping they wanted.
Sounds good. Well, gents, I got to talk to you all afternoon, but we better wrap it up. Where can our listeners find you and follow along, or join and come on the Innovative Tradies Club journey?
Well, up here, up there, Innovative Tradies Club. So www.innovativetradies.club on the website. You can see us on all the socials. So just look for Innovative Tradies Club and you'll find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. Ash is just working on our first TikTok, so that'll come through later in the year, no doubt.
It won't be any good, but we'll do it.
No,
And
it's
also,
really good.
it's a podcast, mate, with Tradie Avant Garde. Is our site. You can find it on Spotify and the likes, and download that. We're up to number 10, so we're only rookies, mate. We don't have all that much experience, but we've been enjoying it, and it's been good fun so far. So those who like podcasts, there's one there there's 10 there to have a listen to, and come along and join. We have a free site, so people can join for free and get some information before they join. But otherwise, it's at $275 for membership, so it's a yearly membership, cheapest chips to get all the information to help your business, plus some savings. With some partners that we've got on board. That'll bring some really good deals to their businesses if they need it. So plenty of opportunities.
All right. Well, I look forward to listening to more pods. Guys and girls can listen to that in the ute or the van as they're going to work. And I'd love to have you on down the track. Cheers.
Cheers, Matty.
Thanks,
Good
Matty.
job.